Zoom, we're getting the people on Zoom situated into the different language groups.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are just getting the folks on Zoom situated into all the different language rooms. We have like 9 language rooms, so we're giving them those instructions. We didn't want to bore you listening to it all. So we will be with you momentarily, but that's what the ASL interpreter is speaking about at this moment on screen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. It is my pleasure to be here in Westfield and introduce Undersecretary Maria Belén Power, and she will give some opening remarks.
Yeah, hi everyone, good evening. Thank you so much for coming. As Maureen said, my name is Maria Belén Power, and I'm the Undersecretary. I feel like if I move this way, it's going to be better. Undersecretary of Environmental Justice and Equity at the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. It's really great to be here, and really thankful and grateful for all of you for joining us tonight. I do want to acknowledge elected officials. I think the mayor was not able to make it at the beginning of the meeting, but do want to have folks raise their hands if they are elected officials. Yep. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Anyone else? Over there.
Nicholas Morganelli.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Well, thank you. Again, thanks for having us. I've been at the executive office about almost 2 years, and it was the inaugural undersecretary position that Governor Healy created to really emphasize the importance of environmental justice and engaging with residents in a meaningful way, as well as ensuring equitable distribution of benefits, environmental benefits and energy benefits. And I come to this work from community organizing. I worked at Green Roots in Chelsea, doing community building and organizing around environmental justice issues. And have been really excited to bring that lens and that experience into policymaking at the executive office. And so we work with all of our agencies and offices to implement environmental justice into everything that we do. And with that, I would like to, well, first let me introduce our team, and Jonathan will later join us to share with you a bit about our work. So we have Jonathan Guzman, Director of Environmental Justice. We have Caroline Lemoyne, if you want to raise your hand, Deputy Director of Environmental Justice, and Saina who is our newest member, an environmental justice liaison. So that's our team. I'll pass it off now to Jonathan, my colleague, who's going to share a little bit about our work and how we're doing this at the executive office. But again, really grateful for all of you for coming tonight, and I'm looking forward to hearing and to learning from all of you as well. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Undersecretary. Can we go back to, there should be a slide before that. Nope. There we go, awesome. So, good evening everybody, my name is Jonathan Guzman. Again, I'm the Director of Environmental Justice and Equity, our office. So, really grateful to see this crowd today to come out to speak to us, particularly of the challenges that are happening within your community. So the first that we wanted to do is an introduction of what our office is and what do we do under the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So the EJ office ensures that the environmental justice principles are integrated into the daily operations of EEA. We look into how all communities across the state can benefit, and especially those that are historically marginalized. Next slide, please. Our objective, next slide. Our objectives include, we're looking to ensure that all voices are heard when policies are being decided within our communities, that we cultivate relationships with environmental justice populations across the Commonwealth, and that we integrate equity and justice into all the policies and programs that are located under EEA. Next slide. When it comes to the principles, we care about two particular principles in the environmental justice world. We look into meaningful involvement and promoting equitable distribution, so including all people in the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental and climate change policies. But what we do this, we want to promote equitable distribution of the energy and environmental benefits and burdens across the Commonwealth. Next slide. When it comes to the population, the environmental justice population definition, which got codified in 2021, looks into these particular pillars, and it defines it as a criteria for what we call the EJ map here in Massachusetts. This is also available online. You can look it up, you can put your address, and it will tell you why those particular spaces within the map are considered environmental justice communities. Next. When it comes to the internal and engagement, our office, particularly when it became, we wanted to ensure that when our colleagues and the agencies are doing their work, that they're incorporating environmental justice across. So improving accessibility for interpretation and translation services to meet communities where they are. We lead and co-lead particular groups to integrate EJ principles across each office within the Secretariat, but also across each of our sister agencies under EEA. The other piece that we've been able to convene lately is a group that we're able to have conversations with the Climate Office and the Governor's Office, and also with our office, with all secretariats to incorporate EJ principles and do the work collectively with us. The next few slides are going to be covered by our colleague, Carolina Moen, who is a Deputy Director, that deals particularly with external affairs within community engagement in our office. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I want to first say, whether you are here in person or tuning in virtually, your participation and your time are truly appreciated. As Jonathan introduced me, I am Caroline Lemoyne, Deputy Director of Environmental Justice for External Affairs. I'm excited to take you through the second part of our presentation, where we focus on community engagement and the key initiatives our office is working on. I will say each of you deserves a big round of applause for being here, because change begins when we come together. When the community has a seat at the table, that's when real progress happens. One of our top priorities as an office is ensuring that communities are involved and meaningfully engaged in our governmental decision-making process. This means that your voices shape decisions that impact your quality of life. We've developed guidelines, which I'll mention later in the presentation, that are consistent across all the agencies we oversee. These guidelines outline best practices for engaging with communities, and some of those practices are noted on the slides here. Most importantly, we ensure that your concerns, to the extent permissible by law, are incorporated into decisions that impact you, your family, and your community. Next slide, please. How do we engage with the community? One of our key engagement efforts is the Environmental Justice Council, chaired by Undersecretary Power. The council is mandated by law to advise and provide recommendations to the Secretary on policies and standards to achieve environmental justice principles. When we talk about environmental justice principles, we mean the equitable distribution of environmental benefits and burdens, ensuring fair treatment, and as I mentioned earlier, making sure your voices are heard in shaping the outcomes. The EJ Council meets bi-monthly, and their meetings are open to the public. Additionally, we have the Justice 40 Working Group and other important engagement efforts, such as workshops designed to inform the community about their rights and the resources available through our agencies to help enhance their quality of life. Next slide, please. Thank you. The Healey Driscoll administration has invested significantly in environmental justice to build a better Massachusetts, where everyone, including you, can live, work, and enjoy a clean environment. The administration committed $1 billion to lower energy costs, create thousands of jobs, and protect clean air and water. We can't achieve this critical work without the dedicated staff to make it happen. Funding was allocated to onboard environmental justice liaisons at all EEA agencies. These liaisons are tasked with carrying out the administration's priorities to ensure no community is left behind. They work to embed environmental justice principles into their agency's services, activities, and programs. We are here to work for you. Next slide, please. As part of our commitment to working for you, we're driving forward several key policies and initiatives to support our shared goals. The Environmental Justice Strategy, released in February 2024, promotes environmental justice and equity across the Commonwealth by ensuring that environmental justice principles are integrated into all EEA policies and programs. The Language Access Plan, released in September 2024, is a critical initiative that offers comprehensive translation and interpretation services. It ensures that non-English speaking residents have the same access to information. This allows them to fully participate in and engage meaningfully with governmental decision-making processes. ensuring their voices are heard and considered in decisions affecting their communities. The Public Involvement Plan, released in December 2024, details how EEA will proactively engage with the public. It outlines clear strategies for effective communication and transparency. This plan ensures that all voices are heard, fostering an environment where community input directly shapes the decisions that impact us all. Next slide, please. In addition to advancing the core principles of environmental justice, the Office of Environmental Justice and Equity, as mandated by law, is leading critical initiatives to develop comprehensive standards and guidelines for community benefit plans and agreements and cumulative impact analyses. These efforts will be shaped through a collaborative approach, incorporating input from industry experts and environmental justice community organizations, ensuring the voices of those most affected are central to the process. All these efforts demonstrate a growing recognition of the importance of community involvement and comprehensive impact assessment in environmental decision-making. The Office of Environmental Justice and Equity ensures that these tools are developed with input from both industry and community stakeholders, aiming to create a more equitable and effective environmental policies. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you. Before we open it up for public comment, I would like to introduce one of our community partners to say a few words, Marianne Babensky.
I need all my paraphernalia here. Okay, good evening, everyone. It's a great crowd. I don't know if you, I guess I have to hold this closer. I have a little picture here and share with you some information of my history with this environmental justice movement, so to speak, that happened not just recently, but was happening over a period of time. This picture was a reminder of a long and arduous journey that brought us to this moment. Some of you may or may not be aware that a group of Westville residents, known then as Westville Concerned Citizens, were actively involved with the environmental justice action starting in 2010. Their engagement with EJ issues led to valuable connections with numerous organizations across the Commonwealth. Those connections not only provided us with valuable insights into the complexities of environmental justice, but have also fostered a sense of community and collaboration. One such connection was with the Mass EJ Alliance. Some of this will bring back many fond memories here. An alliance of grassroots groups from various communities across the Commonwealth. Convened by Alternatives for Community and the Environment, the Mass EJ Alliance included, along with Westville Concerned Citizens, Arise for Social Justice in Springfield, and numerous other organizations across the state, from Holyoke, Chelsea, East Boston, Salem, Lawrence, Worcester, Brockton, and beyond. There are many that belong to this alliance. The Mass EJ Alliance dedicated themselves to educating residents about the need for an executive order to ensure that people could live, learn, work, and play in a safe environment in their communities. You've heard some of this already. In 2012, the EJ Alliance launched a postcard campaign to draw attention to the pressing issue of inadequate state resources. And through that campaign, They collected signed postcards from concerned and supportive residents, amplifying their voices and raising awareness about the importance of investing in environmentally safe communities. And that's part of why we're here today. We want this to be fulfilled in this 2025 year and beyond. In October 2013, after months of collecting signatures, Westfield groups of citizens even organized a walk from Westfield to New Bedford. My feet were sore. The purpose of this marathon effort was to educate and garner support for the signing of the Environmental Justice Executive Order. That was in 2013. In August of 2014, 1,700 postcards were that were requesting that Governor Patrick sign the executive order were handed to the governor's chief of staff, then chief of staff, Richard K. Sullivan Jr. at the State House. I know many of you know him. In November 2014, the Environmental Justice Executive Order was officially signed by Governor Patrick in Chelsea, Mass. Westfield representatives were present at that signing ceremony, and I know some of them are in the room here today. After nearly 8 years of unwavering efforts by numerous climate and environmental justice advocates, on March 26, 2021, the Mass Climate Law finally incorporated environmental justice into the state's legal framework. On June 24th, 2021, the Massachusetts Environmental Justice Policy was again updated as dictated by the Environmental Justice Executive Order. Today, we are at a significant milestone, having achieved several goals over the years through joint efforts. It was a lot of time, not money, I wish we had a lot of money, a lot of time, effort that was put into this. So today I'm delighted, after all of those years, I am delighted to welcome members of an important result of those efforts. The creation of this Office of Environmental Justice and Equity was a part of that whole process that started way back when, even before 2010, and brought us to this day. This office is staffed, I want you to know this, by some of the same individuals who started as grassroots organizers, as Undersecretary Belvin already mentioned, working collaboratively with their communities. They understand the significance of our voices in shaping a more sustainable and equitable future for our communities because they've been in that position themselves. They've been persistent in building and opening communication channels with often overlooked and unheard voices. And that's what this tour is partly about, is that they're trying to get out there and meet with people in the community. I'm delighted and pleased to welcome, personally, because of all the years that have gone by, Undersecretary Maria Bellin-Power from this Office of EJ and Equity and her team. I met Undersecretary Power several years ago, and she is in this picture that I have here when we were presenting all those postcards at the State House. I don't know if you'll see her down here in the lower right-hand corner. I don't know which one of those that is. And there's other people in here that were present to get some time to speak to, in that case, to Richard Sullivan, as we presented the postcards that had been collected. So for that reason, I know that Undersecretary Power and her team bring years of experience and expertise to this office. They're here today because they want to share information, which they've already done, about this office. They're here to listen to our concerns and collaborate to find solutions. So I hope you will take the time to reach out to them and ask questions and welcome them warmly to Westfield and her team, which I am so happy to see them here today. Thank you.
Okay, we are now moving on to the general discussion portion of the meeting. Just so you know, I had you, those of you who wanted to make comments, signed up in advance or at the door when you came in. And Caroline is going to read those names off, and then we'll bring you a microphone. Please do wait for the microphone, or all of our friends on the Zoom call will not be able to hear you. We also ask that you please stand when you're asking a question. We do have one person in the audience who is lip reading, so if you're sitting down, she won't be able to understand what you're saying. And again, with these microphones, you have to talk like a rock star. You have to hold it close. It doesn't work, it's over here.
Great, I'm gonna start.
Oh, sorry. And you have 3 minutes for comments, each person. I will be timing, and I have a time's up card.
When I came in, I asked if we needed to sign when we came in, and you said no. You
No, you don't have to, but,
Except I would like to speak,
so that's okay. We're going through the ones who did sign up and said yes, they wanted to speak. We'll go through those first, and then we'll ask for hands. So we will work through the folks. Okay, sorry.
Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. I'm gonna start with Rich. Sally?
Okay, I'm Richard Saloy. I live on Russellville Road here in town. My main concern in coming down here was to find out what this group is going to do to stop bringing in that battery facility that's scheduled to go into our north side. We do not need this on our north side. It's going to be bad for the environment, it's bad for the aquifer, and I know I live on the north side, and I really don't need something that's going to blow up in my backyard.
Jessica? Gonna answer it.
Answer the question.
I'm happy to just share that this project is in front of the EFSB right now, and I'm not able to comment on any project that are. This particular is in front of the board, in front of the Energy Facility Siting Board. The presiding officer is gonna share ways that people, both who are already existing parties or that live within the 1/2 mile of the facility, to participate. We are here in listening mode, but any comment that is shared here is not part of the record because this is not the Energy Facility Siting Board. So that in order to do that, you would have to do it formally through the process of the EFSB, the Energy Facility Siting Board. And we're still happy to listen and to hear all comments and questions, but it is not part of the official process of the Energy Facility Siting Board.
That's why we're all here. Why are you here?
Why are you here? You say you have no input into the decision. I'm sorry. Just for clarity, are you saying that you have no input?
I'm just not able to comment on a project that is right now in front of me.
But respectfully, I didn't ask you to comment. I asked you to clarify whether or not this agency of the Commonwealth, your agency, has any input into whether or not this project, as proposed in the North End, is approved.
So the
Yes or no? Do you have any input into it?
So the Energy Facility Siting Board does.
And
The EFSB, I personally,
Yeah, what's your relationship with them?
so I work at the executive office, and so we work with all agencies to implement environmental justice. I am not on the board of the EFSB. It is an independent body, and it is every project or every proposal has its own process, and I'm not able to comment on a project that is right now in front.
But again, respectfully, I'm not asking you to comment on it. I'm just asking if everybody in this room is spending their time here because we're hoping that your agency can make a difference for us, and you can't, then I'm just asking you to tell us, that's all.
Well, I'll just share the intent of this meeting was not to talk about this particular project. It was to come and listen to the residents.
Have a nice night.
Because if we're sitting here for nothing, then we applaud your effort on other projects. But if you can't help us, then I think you should just say that.
I personally can't say it. I'm not on the board. I'm not on the EFSB.
In your room, does your room have any, it's kind of a yes or no question.
I mean, I don't. It is part of the EFSB. It is a formal legal procedure in front of the Energy Facility Siting Board.
And you guys have no.
And I don't sit on the Energy Facility Siting
No,
Board.
I understand. But you don't, they don't seek your input, you don't have any legal way of it.
Not as part of the formal process.
No, wait.
Will the statements that we made individually,
So you're going to collect our input, correct? The feedback that we provide will be collected and recorded. Yes?
It's not part of the process.
I didn't talk about the process. I'm talking about our feedback as part of an environmental justice community is going to be collected.
As part of this meeting, yes.
Okay, who reads the results of this meeting?
So this is, I just want to,
I'm not asking about the battery storage thing at all. I'm asking about who reads what we have to say.
it's for our own office.
And what do you do with it?
So we're going across the state to different cities and towns across the Commonwealth to learn about the issues that are happening on the ground.
Okay, so if this is an issue that's important to us, you will be able to actually register that to somebody?
I'll take it back to our team at the executive office.
That's good enough. That's good enough. Well, it's a first step. I think it's a first step to make sure that everybody knows how friggin' upset we all are. And the more people who say it, the better.
Look, you four people came out here to lecture us. This is a pure waste of time for all of us to be here. You're not going to do anything to help us. We're going home.
I hope President Trump eliminates all 1,000.
Can we wait
We'll get our $1 billion back.
Listen, people, write to the facility board. We'll find your address out. We'll all write a letter or sign a petition. We'll send it to the facility board. They have to listen to us.
Can everyone who is here mostly concerned about the impact that this facility is going to have on our buildings just stand up or raise your hand so that these people can see how many people are really invested in this problem? And you can see that the vast majority is here because we are concerned about our quality of life, our water, and our air.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, you guys, can I have just 1 minute before you go? Carolyn, I'll take the mask off, please. Okay? Give me just 1 minute, you guys. So, it's partly my fault, right? Because I said they wanted to hear what we had to say, and we needed to send a message to our government that says this is not okay here, okay? So part of this is on me. I told you to come here and tell them what we think about this, right? And the thing is, they can't talk about it because it's a legal proceeding, and you know that anytime you ask anybody a question about a legal proceeding, they tell you they can't talk about it. So they are here, they're recording, they're putting it in different languages for other people, and this will be posted online everywhere. There's a news team over there, right? The message is going to get there. If you walk away from your seat at the table, that message is going to get diluted by the fact that you walked away. So if you want to leave, that's okay. And I get it, we are all upset. We have watched what has happened in California, we are all upset. But there are actual legal reasons to stay here and speak. And so let me talk to you about some of that, okay? Let's listen, because there is an argument to be made here. And in case you're wondering, RAFT, right? I am here as RAFT Director, Kristen Mello, resident. I am also a city councilor, but I don't speak for the city, and that's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here as RAFT Director, because RAFT filed in this legal procedure to be an intervener on your behalf, to speak for all of us, because we know that this is messed up. Look at me, I'm translating into not swearing. But let's talk. May I have my glasses that I dropped? Thank you. So, but let's talk about, no they don't, but you know what? There's a law that they have to pay attention to. So let's talk about this. The battery storage siting, the EFSB, that we need to work with, that program, DPU transferred it on February 18th, right? Westfield residents are EJ and we are interveners. The site suitability framework is not in place yet, and it is not due to be in place until March of 2026, right? But by statutory rule, this process has to be done in 12 months because it's expedited. So where is our environmental justice? You're gonna make rules about how this happens. You're gonna make rules about how we're gonna protect EJ communities. But Westfield has to go through before those rules are made. And that's not fair. That's not just. We're not okay with it. Number one. Number two. Westfield residents are EJ and interveners, yet cannot access the fund for them because the project application is before them now, and that money won't be available until when? 2026. So the money for the lawyers, the money for the legal help, the money for the experts to defend ourselves is not available. But you know what? Raft has been working without money for a long time, and we have made a lot of friends who are experts and will speak for us for free. And we have found a lawyer that is taking care of us for free. In addition, the law requires that a cumulative impact analysis for all large renewable energy, clean energy projects, and those that are considered large are over 25 megawatt hours of storage. The proposed project here is 800. 25 is large, ours is 800, but that framework won't be set up for us. And so the message is, you need to stop this at the executive level. You hear me? You need to stop this. In the event, thank you, I appreciate you. In the event of thermal runaway, who is responsible to evacuate the farms, the farm animals, the homes, the school, and the assisted living facility for people, some of whom have dementia? If this light's on fire,
My 92-year-old mother.
if this light's on fire, who's going to be there to evacuate these people immediately? And where are we going to put them? And who's going to pay for their maintenance and the needs that they have immediately? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be Jupiter Power? Where is the law that protects us then? Where is that framework? We don't have one. And it is wholly unfair to force us to go through this with a 12-month deadline when none of the supports have ever been in place for this community. You talk about how out in Boston there's legal help for EJ communities. We have asked. It has never come. Ever. So they're upset, and half the room walked out. But that's why. And you walked in here, and I sent you papers to explain what you were walking into. That's what you walked into. This is what you signed up for. You asked for community engagement, and we are engaged. Thank you.
Well, my comment is that the environmental justice and equity parameters or principles are for equitable distribution of the burden. If that's the case, why isn't the areas in eastern Massachusetts with the highest statistics for electric vehicle registrations the area where this is located? That would be equitable, wouldn't it? Why is it equitable for Western Mass to have this burden on us? right? If we're about equity, no response. You agree. You agree, and yet this seems to be the decision. That's not all right. That's not equity.
Thank you. Oh, I heard the term tonight, thermal runaway. How many know what that is? See, terms are everything. You have to understand them. So if we get into this situation called thermal runaway, it's going to make the fireworks at Stanley Park look like nothing. But what can we expect if we have to go through thermal runaway? You ready for the list? Hydrogen chloride, hydrogen cyanide, phosphoryl fluoride, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, black carbon, and other potentially hazardous chemicals and particulates. That's what's coming at you. If this happens to my community, are you going to come and help me and save me? Federal government and a lot of state agencies don't have a very good rap right now for responding to people in trouble. Take a look at North Carolina. Okay? Ohio. Okay? All right, I'm done.
So my name is Jessica Britton, and I live down in Ward 2, right in downtown Westfield, where we flooded out when we had the big Great Flood. I think one thing to think of tonight is too big to fail. Is what we said in the mortgage industry when I worked there for the Lehman Brothers a long time ago. And we all know how that ended. Well, here we are. We have Moss Landing in California with Vistra, which is the world's largest battery energy storage system that recently upgraded their capacity in August of 2021 to 400 megawatts per 1,600 megawatt hours. Has recently been on fire since January, on and off, January 16, 2025. Let me remind you that the BESS that we're gonna install in Westfield is 200 megawatts per 800 megawatt hours. So we're about half the size of Vistra. So in 2020, Vistra was ranked the highest CO2 emitter in the United States. How is this green energy? How are we saving the environment? How are we reducing carbon emissions? What's really going on is a shaking of hands between politicians and giant organizations and NGOs. These organizations are highly incentivized through the government, through kickbacks. The nepotism, when you really look for it, is appalling. These developing new technologies are left to police themselves or lack thereof. Who protects the citizens of the community? We have a futuristic energy that we don't know how to contain. We don't know how to store safely. We don't know how to put out, and we don't know how it will affect the community when fallout happens, which we're sure it will happen at some point. There's no long-term data. We just need to say no. It doesn't work, it's not safe, and we don't know those long-term impacts. And what I will share is that I did reach out to the Moss Landing community recently. I wanted to hear their stories. I wanted to know what we were in for in Westfield. And so this one resident, Cherie Ames Goins, reached out, and she goes through, I know I probably have limited time, right? Okay. She pretty much goes through and talks about how she started experiencing headaches with the battery fire. She was nauseous. They ended up leaving per advice of their doctor that following Friday. They came back and the symptoms came back. She's been to the ER multiple times in the last 6 weeks. She's not able to work her second job because most people in California have to work second jobs in order to afford to live out there. And the doctor she's seen at Stanford Hospital explained that there's no precedent for this. As more of these fires happen, the people of Moss Landing will be the ones that doctors look to help figure out how to treat the new victims of the best fires. And she just pretty much goes on to talk about how they've reached out to the county. The county says you have to reach out to Vistra. And it's just kind of like a circle. Like, nobody knows how to help these people. A lot of them need to relocate and there's no money. I donated to a pregnant woman. She's 5 months pregnant and she lives on a boat and she has a little kid and she can't leave her house. Like, they need to find somewhere to go and they need money just to get first and last so that they can get away, so that, you know, a lot of these people are suffering from cobalt, manganese, and lithium poisoning already. And it's only been weeks and they're already all poisoned. I don't know the outcome, but we need to stop it. We need to find a way to stop it. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to make a comment?
Thank you very much for listening to all of our concerns. I'm Heather Wyman. I'm with the Westfield River Watershed Association. It's an organization that's been around for over 50 years. And we do lots of good work in the community. We work with the environmental justice community around the river. And of course, this would fall within our watershed. And since it is also part of the environmental justice community, that is certainly something that we have looked at. And we just want to also make a statement whether or not you can do anything about it. But it is very important to us as part of the watershed. And part of our mission is to make sure that we can have open access and safe access for people around the river and all of our watershed properties. So please consider that this is an environmental justice concern. Environmental concern, absolutely. Does it have to be built on a watershed? Why? I don't even understand why that was something anybody else has not screwed their head on tight and realized that this is just not what you should be doing when you put something so serious out. It's very, very upsetting to me. I just hope we can all get together, we can all file the next steps and can kind of move forward with this. We need to be heard.
Hi, my name is Zdenka Totlupian, and my concern is not the agency, not the government in Boston, because we cannot rely on them to help us here in Westfield. How do we stop this project as a residents of Westfield? What we need to do to stop it? That's my first thing. My second thing is how this company, all the way from Texas, found Westfield, Massachusetts, to plant this seed on our backyard when we already dealt with the polluted water from the base. We're getting F-35s from up there, is gonna be more noise, and now we need something on our backyard that can just plain simple blow us up. Are you gonna send your people from Boston to help us out in any shape and form? No, take it with you. But my question is, who is behind this company that came all the way from Texas to put in Westfield, Massachusetts? That's my question. Who's got the interest? Because the residents of Westfield don't have that interest. Who is behind it? That's my question. And my other question is, if you don't mind, Mayor, please, what is your stand on all this? Thank you.
Hi, Undersecretary. Very simply, niet. How's that? That sum it up for you? Okay, so my stance has been to work quietly behind the scenes, not fan too many flames, because I have to also be the bridge, and I necessarily need agencies to work with me in the future. That's the way you have to go about doing business. So I can guarantee you that Secretary Tepper, Kim Driscoll, and Maura Healey all know from me, from my mouth, what my stance is. My stance is no. It has always been no. My arguments are all the same arguments that you have made very eloquently, Kristen. The same arguments that everybody here has made. Why in God's name would we put this over an aquifer is beyond me. I can't comprehend it. Why is it that we would even contemplate putting something of this nature that we can never guarantee is not going to burn? It doesn't make sense to me. However, all of that said, I believe in diplomacy. You have to be decent to people if you expect people to be decent back to you. Though my biggest worry is that we get the doors closed because we tick somebody off and they said, oh, well, you just live in Western Massachusetts and we don't care, we're going to stay over here in Boston. They're very good questions as to why we got the Black Rock from Texas. I don't have the first answer to that. All I can tell you is I have been vociferously fighting every single day. I go into my office with folks, and you can ask Maria. I talked to Maria twice, 2 or 3 times over the last couple of days. I think, to be honest with you, there was a little bait and switch here. I'll be honest with you. Because they came to talk about equity and justice and environment, and somehow this turned into something completely different than what it is. Now, I don't know how that happened, but that, to me, respectfully, is disrespectful to them. So my message to them would be, if they are an environmental justice organization, here's the environmental justice I would like them to take back. You can't, in good conscience, put something that local individuals of themselves cannot defend themselves from. That's the environmental justice that I know. That's the Silkwood in the background, right? That's the piece that says, hey, we can't do it one-on-one. I don't have the pockets to go out and engage some attorney to fight that battle. So we have to do it collectively, but I also think we have to do it nicely. We have to maintain our decorum. We have to maintain an ounce of diplomacy. And I will tell you that it is the number, not the budget. The budget is not number one this time around for me. The number one issue facing this community is BESS. It's that simple, and I will fight every single day against it. I had the folks from BESS contact me today, earlier today. Nobody knows this. I feel like Trump. Nobody knows this. Contact me earlier today, and I won't return their phone calls because there's nothing that's going to convince me that the facility is safe. It's that simple. So that's where I stand. I'm glad that you gave me the time to speak to you. I'm glad that you all came out. But remember, it's not really theirs. They happen to be the bully pulpit and the target of our whipping, if you will. Sorry, tongue lashing, if you will. Sorry about that. Oops. But, you know, that's where we are. So thank you very much for listening to me. I appreciate it. Maria, here you go.
Right. First of all, I'd like to say welcome to Westfield. And I'd also like to say thank you for everybody that's here. That means an awful lot. I'm going to give you my full comments. I'm going to try not to repeat a single word that everybody else already mentioned. You'll have a copy of the Black Squirrel. You've got enough information in front of you. I'm going to try to tell you something that a lot of us don't realize. Because we all want safe, reliable, efficient, and affordable energy. We all care about clean air and clean water. And Article 97 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts states that every citizen has a right to clean air and clean water. Clean energy technology should not pose a risk to our first responders, environmental justice neighborhoods, or surrounding communities, the environment, and certainly not our drinking water, or the regional water supply, the Bonds Aquifer. The city of Westfield spent over $20 million filtering PFAS out of our drinking water due to the misguided policies of local, state, and federal governments that thought it was a good idea to set planes on fire for training purposes using firefighting foam containing PFAS to extinguish them. For this reason, the people of Westfield are very sensitive to any further threat threats to our aquifer, and especially PFAS. Massachusetts should be proactive and learn from other states to protect our residents, the environment, and drinking water. The Clean Energy Act was just signed into law in November. Many safeguards and departments are not in place, as was mentioned. Lithium battery storages are a new technology with a history of fires in many facilities and locations across the country with grave results. In 2023, 4 of the battery facilities in New York caught fire. Toxic pollution from a fire in East Hampton, New York contaminated the city's drinking water. Local officials said they were sold a bill of goods. The massive fire at Moss Landing in Monterey, California burned for 5 days. It was the second fire at that facility. Local officials described the fire as a worst-case scenario that no one predicted, and residents have reported health issues, as was mentioned. Scientists from San Jose State University found heavy metal toxin in the soil, hundreds to thousands of times higher than before the fire. And despite the Environmental Protection Agency's initial claim that the fire did not release toxins. As a result of these catastrophic fires, officials in California and New York have called for investigations into the safety of these plants and filed legislation for the following 3 things. And we've asked our state legislators to do the same thing right now. And I met with the mayor last Friday. And I thank the mayor for being here. Pause siting of lithium battery storage sites. Require buffer zones between battery storage sites and communities or ecologically fragile areas. Require local engagement in permitting instead of allowing state agencies to give approval on their own behalf, or on their own rather, okay? So these are cities that, like they mentioned, already had fires. We've got pictures of them, that sort of thing, okay? I'm gonna tell you something a lot of people don't realize. And I've got comments, I'm not happy that with public notification went down, but that's listed somewhere else. The local communities in the Pioneer Valley are some of the lowest elevations in the state. As you drove into Westfield this afternoon and approached exit 41 on the Mass Pike, you may have noticed all the mountains to the west. The Pioneer Valley is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. The area is prone to weather inversions as hundreds of feet of air become trapped in the Connecticut Valley Basin. This contributes to many communities having some of the highest rates of asthma, seasonal allergies, and respiratory illnesses in the nation. Springfield was ranked number 1, and is now ranked number 12. And if we had monitoring things in all the cities around here, we'd all be in the top 10. Westfield is the pre-glacial route of the Connecticut River. Now you're standing in the Westfield River School, but some of the areas are less than 100 feet above sea level. Where we are tonight would be covered by the river, except for during the last ice age, 10,000 feet of ice pushed the earth to form the Holyoke Mountains, which you can see above us, right? The Oxbow, and basically it diverted the river. The river was cut off and is diverted to the other side of Holyoke. The Oxbow in Northampton was created and moved the river further east. The average height of those mountains above us are 900 feet above sea level. A few miles up this road here, this Franklin Street, my wife will make sure I'm pointing in the right direction, but it's the town of Russell. If you drove a few miles up there, you'd see where a Mass Pike Bridge crosses a span 184 feet, and you've all seen it, over the road. That's how low we are. The Berkshires to the west average 1,200 feet. And if you continue driving on the Mass Pike toward Tanglewood, in just over half an hour, you will reach the highest point of 1,724 feet. The Worcester Hills to the east average 600 feet, which is about 40 miles drive. That is how big the Connecticut Valley is. We are living in a giant air pillow. Toxic smoke and poisonous gases from the fire lasting 2 to 5 days in one of the 219 units would not clear out, but rather concentrate and spread over a large area. You see this blue area on the map? That's the Quabbin Reservoir. That's Boston's drinking water. Now imagine a fire burning for a number of days. Even a light breeze could carry a concentration of toxic smoke, poisonous gases, and heavy metals several miles in many different directions. When you get back to Boston, please tell the DPU commissioners and the governor, this is not a good place to put a lithium battery storage. I'm sure no one wants to be known as the people who screwed up Boston's drinking water, and remember, you heard it first here in Westfield. There have been too many fires in too many locations. We simply cannot ignore the danger a fire presents to Westfield, the surrounding communities, the environment, the Bonds Aquifer, or regional water supply, or as the mayor just eloquently said, in the hope that nothing bad will ever happen. Thank you, and thank you for coming, really. We really appreciate it, okay? Thank you for staying, okay? This is being recorded. We have a big fight. We're going to stay on this, all right? Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment. My name is Dan Murphy. I'm a resident of Westfield and a concerned citizen. And I'd like to thank Victoria Mello for pointing out that this is under the jurisdiction of the Energy Facility Siting Board, which from my understanding has the authority to grant an exemption to a city or a town's zoning restrictions, which the city of Westfield developed, to protect our aquifer, developed our zoning restriction, and also that Victoria, or Kristen Mello pointed out that really at this point, the governor's office could create an executive order or an emergency order to stop this. I think that the Energy Facilities Board, hopefully they don't approve it, but if they do, it's really under the power of the governor, which the Environmental Justice and Equity Department and office reports back to. So I'd just like for you guys, as you're doing your community engagement, to understand the people of Westfield don't want this battery in our community. We've already experienced water issues. We don't want more water issues. People are unhealthy from it. And that, it just seems unjust and unreasonable to have a office that can trump our zoning laws. In some cases, it's probably just and reasonable, but in this case, this is above an aquifer. And additionally, in your presentation, you cited that the guidelines, you're looking for impact assessment and siting and zoning. And I think that one of the things that should be taken back is that statewide, there should not be any zoning of battery storage facilities above an aquifer. It's ridiculous. Thank you. And if you could just expedite the communication back to the governor, because this is not Jupiter Power and all this. This is not just going to slow down. So we would really appreciate that you would expedite that communication back to the governor's office.
Okay, we have some people online that wanted to speak and ask a question as well, so we're going to give them an opportunity. So unmute the one person with the hand raised.
This question is one of the ones that's posted in the Q&A. How is EJ responding to community organizations currently being defunded by federal government in the Western Mass community? How is this department supporting small farms receiving vital funding? Food access is clearly an environmental justice issue, and as we see funding for small farms being frozen, what does that mean for both biodiversity goals and our food system?
Yeah, thank you. So the landscape of defunding from the federal government is changing every day, and so every executive order and every sort of announcement that has come, we're looking at which funds have been frozen, which have been released. I heard recently that some of the big grants that organizations, including in the Springfield and in the Springfield area, I believe, was one of the grantees from the federal government. The funds were initially frozen, and now they're they're, I guess, open. So we would love to hear directly from the organizations if they apply for a grant, if they signed a contract, and if the funds are either coming or frozen, because then we would be able to know exactly which communities are having that gap and need the extra support. So it's helpful for us. I think the email address is ej.inquiries@mass.gov. We would love to know which communities and organizations applied for federal funds, were granted, signed contracts, and if they are receiving the funds or if they're frozen. We also have a grant opportunity open right now from our office. It is up to $75,000. I think the link, maybe we can share. I guess if you email us, ej.inquiries@mass.gov, we can share the application. The grant application is due March 14th, and it is for a grant of up to $75,000 for this fiscal year.
Okay, now we have a question from the Zoom audience. It's Jana Hall. I'm going to allow you to talk. Oh, they just lowered their hand. Oh, okay, now they're, okay, it's raised again. I am allowing you to speak, and I will now ask you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jonna Hall. I live in Springfield, Massachusetts. So I joined this meeting to try to understand what this OEJE team actually does. Westfield residents obviously love their town and deserve to keep their health. So, Mayor, with all due respect, it should be expected that emotions are going to be high from those residents. And I was really surprised to hear you verbally chastising your residents, which in my eyes was very rude, considering that I feel, just from me not really knowing much about all that's going on in the town, to see that concerning this whole meeting, I feel was a bait and switch by this OEJE team to come to the town and spout environmental equity and justice, but then to tell those Westfield residents that their team isn't here to discuss what these obvious environmental issues are for the town of Westfield. So I'm not sure in transparency if that was even put out, but it seems like I think this is the first stop on this tour. So if you guys are gonna be going to other towns, maybe you should put that out first and say, like, these topics are going to be off topic. We can't discuss these topics because they're in some sort of legal proceeding. So if you come be prepared to not talk about what you're concerned with. That's just from my eyes. And so then my question is, what exactly was the point of holding this meeting? Like, I still don't really understand what the point was. If the town can't come to discuss the environmental concerns that they have, what was the point of you coming to the town? Thank you very much.
So this is the first stop in this sort of new iteration of the tour, but we did start going to different cities and towns when I first started at the executive office back in March of 2023. We are continuing to do more tours. It has kind of a new logo and a new flyer, but it is to really understand the issues that are happening in every city or town or community that we go to. So I'm listening, and I know it's frustrating that I can't answer questions or answer concerns or comment on it. I'm not able to comment on that particular project or case in front of the EFSB, but that does not mean that me and my team are not listening.
Okay, we're going to go back to questions here in the room.
Hi, my name is Julie Lamont. I have a question.
which you may or not be, I don't know if you can answer or not, but those of us who do not live within the 1.5 mile radius that can comment on this project, it affects all of us because we live here and we drink the water here. And I don't want my water contaminated again. We've already had issues. So who do I talk to? Where do I go? Who do I talk to in the state to tell them I don't want this? Can I write to the OMB? Will they listen to me? Even though I don't live within the 1.5 mile radius. This is a big town and we all drink this water and we don't want problems. And my neighbors, I don't want my neighbors to be exposed to this. And this lithium stuff that goes out in the air, that's another issue because it's going to affect me and my neighborhood even though I'm not right there. Because it goes way more than 1.5 miles. So I don't think it's right that you just limit the comment, or that, not you personally, but the board limits the commenting to 1.5 miles. And what do I do to voice my concern to that board, is my question.
Yeah, so I believe anyone that lives, like you said, within the 1.5 mile will receive communication, and then as well as any participants that are that have already, I think I heard there's a group that already intervened that is representing residents. So it's the parties to the case as well as the residents and property owners. So the presiding officer of the Energy Facility Siting Board will be sending out more detailed information on how to participate. And I believe if you are a participant in the case, then you will receive the information.
Exactly. And we'll share out everything that can go public. And anything that you want to go to the lawyer, you can send through me.
Because my neighbors are clueless.
Yeah, we can talk.
My husband is clueless. I explained it to him today.
I don't know if I can help
Hello? My name is Ken Tahasik, and I have no business being here. I've moved to Westfield about a year and change ago. I live on Glenwood Drive. I love the town. Glad to be here. But I'm here partly out of embarrassment. The first I ever heard of this, I mean, I'm buying a house, my life savings in this town, nothing. Nothing from realtors, I know town officials for years and years, nothing. Nobody knew a thing about this, nobody. And I read in the newspaper, I don't know, around Christmas, a done deal. A done deal announced by Westmass, a done deal that there's a $30.5 million a year tax credit from the town, and the town doesn't know anything about it. And I was stunned. Particularly because in my past life, when I used to live in Western Mass, I was Senior Vice President of West Mass Area Development Corporation, a key player in this transaction. And I don't know much about it, so I'll stop just short of saying I'm ashamed of what that public-facing organization has become. We worked for 20 years when I was there as a nonprofit to help lower taxes in Westfield and create jobs. This thing ain't gonna create jobs. It's gonna do maybe lower taxes, I don't know. But the thing is, a project of this magnitude, I've spent my whole life in this stuff. If this went through normal permitting procedures, it would probably take 20 years. Environmental impact statements, wetlands designations, planning board, the state, federal, so many permits. I worked for years in Canada starting new mines. It takes a generation to build a new mine in Canada or the United States. The Facility Siting Board is basically a fan. So I'm applaud and I appreciate this department being here today, because I would have still heard nothing about this. That is stunning in 21st century America, just stunning. That my neighbors don't know or care, my wife doesn't know or care. And normally a project, we used to get permits in Westfield and Agawam and East Long Meadow. We would fight for a year or so to build a small factory with a parking lot, with no environmental impact. like a year. So this sighting board is a fancy term for railroad. And there's no way that this thing could happen without that. It says all of these concerns are nice when it's something that's not really important or hard or impactful. But when it's really important, thanks, but no thanks. And another reason why it's in Westfield, there are some good technical problems or advantages we have, like the electricity and access and such. Okay, thank you. But the real reason, all my years in working with economic development in Western Mass, was that we are the middle of nowhere. That's Massachusetts ends at somewhere around Worcester. Somewhere around Worcester. And there are several reasons it can't go east, but one of them is because people east would fight it like hell and win. That's right. And that's what we have to do. The way to do that, I suggest, is to be polite, as the mayor suggested. Go to this siting board hearings, make sure that we get input into those hearings. They're almost certainly going to cite it and approve it, no matter what we say, but we have to go there and be seen publicly and be on the record and begin to get boatloads of publicity so your neighbors know, so everybody around knows. And it could well become an issue in gubernatorial election politics. It's not going to be over technical stuff. And lastly, I think we all have to be disciplined and informed. And I don't know jack about this. And that's why I stood up. We all should know a lot about this by now. And we don't. So I don't know anything. I'm not going to go around and spout stuff. And I think we should all be disciplined. The organizations that are already in place are impressive as could be. Work through them together, be disciplined, be polite when we have to, and be not polite someday if we don't have to. That's it, thanks. And since I'm sort of with who may or may not be the bad guys, I'm just apologize for that, and I'm signing up as a foot soldier to do whatever you want me to do.
I hate being in front of people, but here I am. Hi, Mary. My name is John. I live in this town. I've been here for 25 years. I lived in West Springfield before that, so I'm very familiar with this area. Westfield is a destination community. People come here because we've got a terrific college. We've got some wonderful things that people who are starting families, who are just wanting to be in a really comfortable, really wonderful, special place. And then we heard about the tax implications. Oh, if this thing comes through, we might get a few bucks off of our property taxes. Well, how about this? How's your property going to be when they have a huge explosion at that community and people are trying to run out of here like rats leaving a ship? How's your property going to be when you can't find anybody willing to buy into this community because they've got that disaster staring at them in the face?
Ask the people in Ohio.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm not here to promote anything or tell you that I'm selling you something. I'm just here because I know how important this community is to the people who live here. And that I love that railroad analogy that was just given. That's exactly what it feels like. What's the best way to prevent fraud from happening? Before it happens.
Thank you, folks. We only have this space until 7:30, so I think we're going to take one more.
My name is Tom Dandino. I've lived in Westfield now for about 26 years. And I'm not here to convince anybody that we don't need this thing and what an environmental disaster it could be. I would like to give you a couple talking points maybe that you can use for your friends and neighbors about what this facility is, what it can do, and what it can't do. You've seen the 200 megawatt facility for 800 megawatt hours. What that means in the real world is, it is a 200 megawatt facility that can run for 4 hours, because 2 times 4 is 8. At the end of 4 hours, if this thing is fully charged when it's called upon and needed, at the end of 4 hours, it's done. It will not provide any more electricity until it gets recharged. The other thing that you'll probably be told, or you'll hear in the conversation is, oh, this is for green energy. This facility will not be charged necessarily by green energy, solar or wind or whatever. It will be charged by whatever generation is online at the time. When there's excess generation, it will flow to the battery. But it won't necessarily be green energy. Those are a couple talking points you might want to take back to your friends and family.
Yeah, thank you. Briefly, I'm Fred Connor. I'm from West Springfield. I just want to let everybody here know that you're not alone in your concerns. We may be way out in the boondocks here in Westfield, but personally, I've been in touch with the city mayor and the city council of Everett out in the Boston area, who are facing a project very much like this, the Tri-Mount battery energy storage system on a 20-acre property, and they're very concerned. They're very keenly interested, and they're tuning in to this proceeding today. And so they want to, work together with us and support us in our endeavors as we support them. So what I hope to see is a grassroots, disciplined, and polite movement, if you want to call it that, to the people across the state to make our voices heard before the governor. And it looks as though, because the perception is that the governor is doubling down, and that there's politicians and private sector are working together on this, perhaps. But I think that what we need is a grassroots, and if we can get an executive order, either at the governor's level or the EPA level, or even at the Washington D.C. level, to get these a moratorium on this project through an executive order, as Dan Alley suggested, that would be a way forward. But I just want to reassure you that you're not alone. And where you mentioned that you're going out to other communities, I know that Everett is one community. Somerset is another one that's that's being targeted for a system like that. I would be interested to know what other communities you're visiting that we could be aware of. And okay, so I look for that information at the end of the meeting. So.
Next slide up. Jonathan, can you put the slide up with the next dates?
I'm happy to take more questions. Just a quick question.
Yeah. Once we see the slide of okay, are you going to be also not talking about battery storage at these?
Just generally, I can't talk about if it's in front of the board, in front of the EFSB.
Do these communities have?
So these are projected locations. We have not chosen the specific place where we can go at the time, but that's the hope that we're going to go to those.
Okay, all I'm saying is you are going to these communities that are targeted for battery storage projects. What are you going to talk about?
We're just trying to get to different parts of the Commonwealth to hear and understand the issues that folks are facing.
May I ask a question related to your organization specifically? Not related to the battery
Sure, I
storage at all?
think just, there were one hand here, I think one here, and then we'll take you, is that okay? Caroline, I think the lady right here. If you could raise your hand.
You're good.
I just wondered, what does OSHA have to say about any of this? Because we picked this off of OSHA, facts and all the different chemicals, and it's talking about all the hazards. You would think OSHA would be interested in all of this stuff being over our water supply and Boston's water supply. I also wanted to comment that I didn't know a thing about this until like 3 weeks ago. I didn't even know that there was another meeting back in December. There wasn't anything. I didn't hear anything on the radio, I didn't hear anything. Luckily, Dan Alley did email me, and that's how I found out, but I don't think that we were told and we were given the opportunity to be at the last meeting, and that's disturbing, very disturbing.
I know you're looking at me, but I put it out on it.
I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you, Mayor. No, I'm not looking at you. I'm just looking around. But thank you very much.
My name is Joshua Willette. I live in West Springfield, but I lived most of my life across the street from the airport. My kidney and bladder has never worked correctly. I almost died as an infant, and there are times where I have to go back and forth to the bathroom for like half an hour. There are 3 topics I want to touch on briefly. 1, corruption in city government. 2, Tacoma Mountain. And 3, the need for everybody to have access to green spaces for mental and spiritual well-being. So in Westfield, you're not supposed to build anything on the aquifer or in wetlands. There's a loophole, special permit. They always grant the special permit. On Armbrook, they built self-storage sites. There's a contractor shop there. These aren't special, it's not like a school or hospital or anything that needs a special permit. So I'm wondering if the state can do something about that with this old boys club that just approves these things. The second thing is Tacoma Mountain. I understand it's controlled by the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. Part of it is controlled by Westfield though, and it's leased to the state. I would like to see it made, I think Tacoma Mountain State Park has a nice ring to it because I could see that these local businessmen, if they could, they would undo those regulations and just have that sprawl keep spreading west. The third thing is when green spaces are wiped away, I lose my constitutional right to practice my spirituality. So Jesus went out into the wilderness for 40 days. Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree. I sat by the banks of Armbrook, and it's been messed up and destroyed. That's my right as an American, as a human. I'm an artist. I made some of these stickers. So I just want you to remember that. Thank you.
I think that will be our last question. We're losing the interpreters as we speak.
Hello. My name is Anna Messick. I'm the conservation agent for the Westfield Conservation Commission. I started here in April of 2022, I want to say, and we've been trying since then to make a great shift more towards conservation, but we are really focused on wetlands protection. Our job is enforcement of the Wetlands Protection Act, its regulations, and I've found over time throughout the Westfield community there is a miscommunication in what our role is, and we often have a lot of people come to our meetings and they say, you're the Conservation Commission, why can't you conserve? And it's because we are so limited to 2 things. One is the Conservation Commission Act, one is the Wetlands Protection Act, and what we can do within those. So I just wanted to applaud myself to you guys because you are a relatively new assembled group of individuals who are trying to make a difference for environmental justice communities, and you're out here and to listen to us and to understand our experiences, not necessarily related to the battery storage facility. I'm not involved in that, unfortunately, so it's outside my jurisdiction as the wetlands agent, and it upsets me that it is, but there's nothing I can do about that because that's how the state laws are made. It comes down to reaching out to your legislators, giving feedback on laws. All last year, they revised the wetland regulations ongoing for a year. They took public comment, they took public feedback. They're currently revising Article 97 in order to make it so that you can use lands for its purpose other than Article 97 lands, if you can replace it or provide monetary funds for it. Those things are frustrating for this community because we don't want to see our land go. Westfield, roughly 40% forested, statistically. That's what the master plan says, that's what everything says about it. It's hard for me as a municipal official to get that information out there, strongly because of a language barrier. So I know that you were mentioning the translation services. Is that something that is available for municipalities to use, or is it just for the state government? Because it's always associated with like Mass DEP comments or things like that. And I also just want to say, I've worked in EJ communities. I've been on both sides of the table. I worked for a nonprofit, Save the Bay, in Narragansett, Rhode Island, in Providence, Rhode Island. I've been to schools in Worcester. There is nothing more sad than bringing to a classroom ocean life to a kid that lives 20 minutes from the ocean and has never, ever been there. They don't know what ocean water feels like. They don't know what ocean creatures look like. They've never experienced the sound of the ocean, but they're 20 minutes away from it. They're 10 minutes away from it. So being in those EJ communities, Westfield is a magical place in comparison. Like, I love being here in Westfield. I love working here in Westfield. I think this community is great and amazing, and I love that everybody advocates for everything. So I just want to commend all you guys as well. But yeah, the translation service was my main question.
Thank you for your question on the language access services. So one of the things, we definitely are welcome to have discussions where we have the language access plan that we were able to make available for EEA, and every other department under EEA and agency also has the language access. Carolyn Lemoyne is our language access coordinator that works for each language access coordinator in each agency. So if there's any proceeding or any particular process happening with a state agency, always feel welcome to request those services through them. And if you have any concerns, always feel free to reach out to us. Our emails are public under our webpage on mass.gov, and also through the ej.inquiry@mass.gov. You can always reach out with any particular questions like that, but we are here, there are resources for that, and we want to make sure it's always available, okay?
I wanted to address something that the gentleman from West Springfield said. Well, I don't know where he is. There he is, over there. I have been in touch twice personally, in person, face-to-face with Carlo DeMaria. Now, you guys don't know who Carlo DeMaria is, but he is the mayor of the unfortunate city right now of Everett. They've got the $700 megawatt siting on their property. We were actually able to make a creative argument with the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office that we are very, very different from them. As the eloquent speaker spoke from Westside, the property that they are recovering, which is an interesting term, the property that they're recovering is a brownfield Monsanto Exxon piece of property. So they believe that they were actually doing it a favor. So we were able to creatively flip the argument and say, well, we understand why you want to maybe put some green energy out that I'm not really sure that's certain that it's green energy in the first place, but that's the argument, in order to fix the brownfield problem. Well, our argument then turned into, you got a greenfield and a greenfield. Why would you risk one greenfield, which is your #1 natural resource in this city, for a hypothetically crafted, by the way, this is a goal, this was crafted in somebody's mind, that we need 1,000 megawatts of power to meet our 2025 goal. That's like me fundraising for a marathon, right? I'd like to get $1,000. Anybody want to give me $1,000? But that's a created goal. So fortunately enough for us, folks at the state level, I think, have heard our arguments. They have reached their goal of 1,050. Their goal was 1,000, they're at 1,050. So our arguments have also been made that you don't need us to reach your goal. And again, it's a goal that they themselves created. So again, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for bringing up that point. But I want you to know that Carlo and I are in direct conversation with one another, and I'm using his unfortunate situation to hopefully better hours. Thank you very much.
Hi, we do have a survey that if you'd like to take a quick shot at that QR code, you can take the survey if you just grab a picture on the way out. Thank you.